Welcome in. It is a Sports by the Book Football Frenzy special. I'm Jeff Parles. We are a little less than a week and a half away from kickoff in New Orleans between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We're going to be hearing a lot of opinions, a lot of good things about these teams and this matchup over the next 10 days, but bringing him on right now. One of my good friends, one of the best to do it in play-by-play. Of course, you hear him on the NBA. You hear him on college hoops. You heard him all year long on the NFL on CBS as well on Westwood One. And also, if you happen to live in Indonesia, you hear him on the World Feed in other countries as well for the big game between Kansas City and Philadelphia. It's the one and only Ian Eagle joining us right now. Ian, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, Jeff, if somebody just wants to take a big trip around the world the Saturday before the Super Bowl, this is the time to do it, with the chance to hear me and Charles Davis on the World Feed. This is really the perfect vacation for anyone. I could probably broker a deal through a travel agent. We can get it done for you.
I'd imagine you have enough United miles to make it work, Ian. Just a hunch on my end.
That's true. Very true. Very true. Great to talk to you, bud. Great to see you.
It's always great to talk to you, Ian. And just want to start off before we get into the matchup and all the pomp and circumstance that goes into it. On the Chiefs end of things, we'll start there. Looking to be the first team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowl championships. Yeah. A team that, look, they're the first one to go back-to-back and even make it to the Super Bowl for the 3rd consecutive year. Ian, this feels so, as great as the New England dynasty was and other dynasties we've seen through the NFL's history, this just feels different, the different level of inevitability with this Kansas City squad.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe the most impressive part about it is they're not doing it in the same exact way. If you think about the first championship, the explosive offense, we didn't know if they could hang defensively. We didn't know if they could do enough defensively. They proved that they could. Even then, we weren't necessarily convinced that the defense, as it was constructed back then, was sustainable. Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator, there was a belief that he would get it right. And with each year that's gone by, they have. And they have changed the way that they're viewed. They're not just an offensive team anymore. In fact, they're not the explosive offensive team that they used to be. It doesn't mean that they're not capable of it, but they really have leaned more on the defense. They played a ton of close games. They went undefeated in one-score games. In fact, they've won 17 in a row, one-score games in their favor. And it just shows you that the bones of this team with Mahomes and with Andy Reid and Nola, that has been the carryover. Chris Jones would be in that group as well. But the supporting cast has changed. Kelsey is there. He's not quite as dominant as he once was, but still reliable. They've changed the way that they do it, and it really is a testament to Mahomes, to Andy Reid, the fact that he adjusts with the times. He doesn't just stand on previous success. He works in new things. And their personnel department, the fact that they have found players, certainly on the defensive end, they found different makers on defense that they can build around. And there are no signs that this is it, that this is the end of the run. This feels very much like a team that can continue to do this time and time again. And they just find ways to win. There are games where you think to yourself, all right, this is the one. This is the one where it blows up in their face. This is the one where it goes sideways. And it never seems to go sideways. It seems to go in their direction.
It's an amazing run that they're on. And you just mentioned a point in there that I think is so important. The ability to adjust also. Like you said, that first team, I mean, that was put the foot on the gas pedal, go score 38 points a night. And honestly, there were questions of this team. Hell, this team didn't even score more than 30 points until last week in the game they needed to against Buffalo. And you just mentioned it too with the defense. Yep. Everyone points to Andy Reid. Everyone points to Patrick Mahomes. One guy who just deserves to be pointed at too is Steve Spagnuolo, who is, to me, I know we don't really put coordinators into Canton. He's a guy who I think deserves to be in in Canton one day as a defensive coordinator. That's how good of a job he has done. He did it with the Giants, and now, of course, here with Kansas City, where this defense, last year, they, by the end of the year, were the best defense in the NFL, and this year, once they've gotten healthy again, have been darn good yet again.
Yeah, you're right. There's probably a category there that should be noticed in the Hall of Fame for people that are just excellent at their jobs, and maybe they didn't get to the top spot. He wasn't obviously an accomplished guy as a head coach with the Rams from 2009 to 2011. This is the role for him. Run a defense, do it in his manner. Also give a lot of credit to Brett Veach for bringing in the players that fit Spagnuolo's system, and the fact that they just keep getting better. This group hasn't even topped off yet, in my mind, just based on how they've worked in some of the young guys, the mesh with the veterans, and then personnel-wise. You can't argue with the draft picks that have been made in certain areas. The cornerback position, the fact that Trent McDuffie has emerged in a very short period of time as one of the best cover corners in the NFL. Nick Bolton is a tackling machine. Leo Chanel, third-round pick, he has turned into a consistent playmaker. They go out, they sign a free agent in Drew Tranquill. He's been the perfect fit. Obviously, what Chris Jones does, he's been the most dominant defensive tackle in the game the last couple of years. But George Karlaftis, first-round pick, 30th overall. So you don't have a high draft pick. That doesn't mean you can't get an impact player. They found one in Karlaftis. They've made key free agent signings through the years. Justin Reed, hard hitter, good fit. We can go on and on. The fact that you and I are having this conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs being in the Super Bowl and we're not leading with the offense, to me, that is a huge headline in how they've evolved.
Yeah, it's incredible, and then Patrick Mahomes has only been in the AFC Championship game every year as a starter, and in the Super Bowl all but two. But it's an incredible run with KC, and now they see Philly for the second time in 3 years in this game. And Ian, just looking at this from Philly's perspective, they were oh so close 2 years ago. Jalen Hurts had what I thought was the best game of his NFL career. In the end, 35 points was not enough, and we all know how that game ended. But this go around, Ian, they are very well equipped to hang in a game with Kansas City, and it all starts with Mr. Barkley in that backfield.
Yeah, I've done the last two playoff games on the radio side with Philly, and what Barkley is doing is astronomical. It doesn't cease to amaze me every time. I feel like, okay, the defense is going to figure it out. They're going to stack it. They're not going to let them get to the outside. At least there will be safety help. So what was previously a 64-yard touchdown run will be limited to a 22-yard run, and they'll live to see another day. No, first play from scrimmage, 60 yards to the house for Philadelphia. And all the plaudits that we just had for Kansas City, and I give them a great deal of credit. Their personnel is excellent. If you go player for player right now, if we were going to draft a team from the two teams and form one team, you would have more Eagles on the team than you would Kansas City Chiefs. That's how good their personnel is. That's the job that Howie Roseman has done, pairing it with Nick Sirianni and his philosophy. Look, Nick has gotten some criticism based on his histrionics, based on sometimes how he carries himself. All my personal dealings with him have been very good. He's a football guy. He's a good dude. You sit down with him, you could see why players respond to him. Does he do it a little differently? Does he carry some stuff with him from game to game or situation to situation, whether it's someone that wronged one of his players or one of his former mentors, Frank Reich? I did the game when they played Indianapolis, and at the end of the game, Sirianni and the Eagles win. He's pointing at the Colts fans, and this is for Frank. I'm thinking, all right, nobody was thinking that way. Just Nick. He had that building inside of him. But it works. Look how successful this guy has been in 4 years. And the strange part, Jeff, you're on this stuff. You obviously are fully engaged in the NFL week in and week out. After 4 weeks of the NFL season, if you started posting odds as to who might get fired as a head coach, Nick Sirianni's name was on that list
Sure was.
early in the regular season. They didn't look that sharp. They weren't winning consistently. They hit the bye week, and after the bye week, they have been nearly unstoppable. Barkley, yes, big part of it, no doubt about it. But it does go beyond just Barkley. Pairing him with that offensive line has been the perfect marriage. Hurts limiting mistakes. He's got one interception in the last 14 weeks.
Iron Eagle with us right now, of course, CBS Sports, Yes Network, the Turner family as well, also the voice of the Final Four in the NCAA tournament as well. Ian, I just want to ask you about this, and you mentioned this earlier, just the harmony of the Eagles' offense with Barkley and Hurts protecting the ball and that offensive line. That offensive line did suffer a few injuries over the last few weeks. Cam Jurgens didn't start the game in the NFC Championship game. Landon Dickerson had to leave that NFC title game. I know it's 2 weeks. There's a bye involved, but just going up against Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and that defensive front for Kansas City, how much of a concern is that Eagles' health on that front line?
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. That was not smooth. They obviously got through it against Washington. The fact of the matter is Barkley is so exceptional at his job that his ability to go to the outside, to pick the right running lane, decision-making, spin moves, physical against linebackers and safeties, all of that plays to Philadelphia's favor. But in a Super Bowl, one game, winner take all, you want to be at your best. And they clearly were not at their best last week up front. It is a concern. Injuries are part of the game. We understand that. It just happens to be the bread and butter for Philadelphia. So let's see how it plays out here. We're not going to have anything in terms of an injury report as we get much closer to the game. It didn't look great. I mean, the fact that Jurgens was active but not starting, didn't have a helmet on for a long stretch of that opening half, and then had to come in fill-in duty, and they had to mix and match, and Steen came in to start at the left guard position. It's not great timing, but it's part of the deal. They're equipped. They're pretty deep. But considering it's what they do and who they are, that's really the lifeblood of who the Eagles are. It's a legitimate concern.
Ian, just looking forward to things here. What's one thing in this game that has to happen for Philadelphia to just slay the beast? Is it as simple as Barkley has another huge day? Is it actually forcing a Kansas City turnover where Kansas City finally turned it over for the first time in 2 months a week ago against Buffalo? Or is it some other thing that may be off people's radar?
No, I think the turnover issue is one that really stands out for Philly. They've been feasting on that. They've averaged 2 forced turnovers, more than that after last week, if you throw those numbers in, since the bye week. So this isn't just occasionally that's a part of who they are. This has been consistent in who they are. So that can't change. If Kansas City takes care of the football, I still believe they're very efficient offensively. They're not necessarily as electric as they used to be, but they're still efficient. They found something with Kareem Hunt, and he's really emerged as the guy they depend on now in the run game. Doesn't mean Pacheco won't have a role, and he could pop one, but odds are they're going to stick with what they've been doing to get to this point. And the ball control part of it is definitely who they are right now. Less so the huge plays. They keep talking about it. I had them a few times down the stretch of the season, and Patrick Mahomes, who's terrific in the production meetings, he's obviously highly experienced in handling the questions, but it's also automatic pilot. He was saying to us, like, oh, we got to get those explosive plays, and that's what we got to do. They're still not coming. It's just not part and parcel with who they are. They thought Hollywood Brown now being a part of it, maybe he can help pop it free. It's not the old Kansas City Chiefs. It just isn't. Doesn't mean that they're not capable. I just don't think you can go into these games relying on it. If they get any of those explosive plays against this Philadelphia defense, then you could be looking for a long night out of Philly, especially with what you mentioned earlier in regards to their offensive line.
I am one last Chief related question because I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and it always feels like in these Kansas City Super Bowls, there's always one guy at the skill position who comes out of left field and has a huge game. 2 years ago, it was Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore who had the big games in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against this Philadelphia team. If you were to pick one of those auxiliary guys to have a big game, would it be a Justin Watson? Would it be a Noah Gray? Would it be, Samaje Perine made the big play to send him to the Super Bowl. I mean, there's so many random names that could pop up here.
That's the one that came to mind for me. I don't know if it would be a big game per se, but I could tell you that Samaje Perine could make some big plays. They put him in position on third downs occasionally where his catch and run ability and his rugged style could turn into a 27-yard reception and one of those key plays that we saw last week. I've done a bunch of his games through the years where he's emerged as one of those guys. I remember a Cincinnati game in particular where he just took over unexpectedly in a game, and they just kept feeding him the football, and he was not an every down running back. He's never really been viewed as such. So that would be the one name. That's the bolt that came into my brain. If you were going to pick somebody from Kansas City that emerges in a moment, it could be someone like Samaje Perine.
Ian, before we let you go, I just want to take one quick dive to the NBA because you're covering that league on a daily basis, and I just want to ask you about the two upstarts real quick: Oklahoma City and Cleveland, who, are only a combined 75 and 18 right now as you and I are talking. Do you buy both of these teams for a long playoff run, especially Oklahoma City? Last year, at least winning a playoff round, Cleveland winning a playoff round as well. And Kenny Atkinson, of course, I know you're experienced with because of his time with the Nets at the helm now there in Cleveland.
I'm certainly buying Oklahoma City. I think last year were necessary steps to get them the experience, to get everybody that follows the NBA to a place where they can start seeing them as a realistic NBA Finals team. And they've done it for the most part this season, not even close to full strength. When Hartenstein was out, Holmgren was in. When Holmgren was out, Hartenstein was in. They both missed time, and they keep finding ways. They're just so well built. That's one of those situations where you stockpile a bunch of picks and you hit it out of the park. They didn't hit singles and doubles. They hit triples and home runs on some of those drafts, and then the Hartenstein signing, a lot of money, but they had the money in the cap, and he was the right guy. He's the right player for what they do. So that one does not surprise me at all. And if they go on a run and get to the NBA Finals, you and I can talk in June. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be shocked. To me, they are the most complete team in the Western Conference. Cleveland, it gets a little more interesting. The Cavs are fun. They have absolutely followed Kenny Atkinson and what he's preached. And it's always interesting when coaches get a second go-around, head coaches. Kenny, who was with the Nets, and they were going through a complete rebuild at that time, then started to get some pieces, and then they rebuilt it again. Ultimately, decision was made that they wanted to go in a different direction. Kenny bides its time with the Clippers for 1 year, and then Golden State wins a title. And by his own admission, he learned a great deal from Steve Kerr in how to handle personalities, in how to deal with egos. And the fact is, these experiences help you sometimes when you don't even realize they're going to help you. Getting this job in Cleveland, I just think he's in a perfect place to really get the most out of this group. How does it translate in the playoffs? I don't know. I love Donovan Mitchell. I love the way he plays. I love the chemistry that this group has. But to get to the NBA Finals, they're probably still going to have to go through a Boston and or New York. And this is crazy, Jeff, to think this way because of how tumultuous the season has been for Philadelphia. I just wouldn't want to see them. If Embiid gets healthy, if George gets healthy, and if Cleveland gets the top spot, which we presume they will, and have to somehow face Philadelphia that came through the play-in as an 8 seed, that would not be a good matchup.
Well, I'm sure the people in Philadelphia would think about that sort of series rationally, but that's a different discussion for a different time. Ian, before we let you go, what does your week look like? Super Bowl week in New Orleans.
My week is brief in New Orleans. My week is packed with other assignments. I actually have Cleveland-Boston on TNT on Tuesday, and then some Nets games thrown in there as well. So I'll be in New Orleans on Saturday, raring to go on Sunday, and then quick turnaround to get back to the NBA world. And I also have Arizona State coming up, college hoops this weekend. So it's that time of year. It's fun. I have to compartmentalize, but every time you put the headset on and you get a great crowd, great ambiance, it reminds you that there's no place you'd rather be. So that's my viewpoint, and that's never changed in all these years of doing play-by-play.
Arizona State, of course, longtime Big 12 rivals in that one. In Tempe on CBS. That's 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific start on Saturday. You can hear Ian on the call for that one in Tempe. Of course, Ian Eagle, everyone, hear him on CBS. You hear him on Yes Network in the tri-state area. You hear him on the family of Turner networks for the NBA and the NCAA tournament as well. And, of course, the NFL season all year long on CBS and Westwood One. Ian, always a pleasure. Enjoy the week. Honestly, enjoy the next few months, because I know that's the busiest time of the year with the NCAA tournament and the end of the NBA season coupled with the Super Bowl. Thank you for taking some time to talk to me today.
Yeah, Jeff, always appreciate it, and always enjoy talking to you. You're my man. Keep it up. We'll do it again soon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Parles.
And I'm Alex White. Thank you for watching this clip of Sports by the Book. Please like the video, comment, and subscribe.
We live stream the show right here every day on this channel. Also, you can catch the podcast version on your favorite podcast platform.
All the links are in the description below. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.